Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the secret history of one of the world's most powerful and most private intelligence agencies, the Egyptian General Intelligence Service, or GIS.
This metaphor, it really gets to the core of what the GIS is all about. It's not about just seeing what's on the surface. It's about understanding the deepest vulnerabilities, the very pulse of your adversary.
So, to answer that, we have to go back. Way back to a moment of total chaos, a time when Egypt was, for all intents and purposes, completely blind in the shadowy world of espionage.
Okay, picture this. It's 1954. The Egyptian monarchy has just been toppled. Cairo is an absolute hornet's nest, just crawling with spies, British, French, Israeli, you name it. Egypt's new leader, Gamal Abdel Nasser, he looks around and realizes something terrifying. His nation has no eyes, no ears. They're totally exposed.
Nasser knew he couldn't trust the old guard. So what did he do? In complete secrecy, he handpicked 7 of the military's absolute best and brightest officers and sent them on a covert mission to Langley, Virginia. Yep, right to the CIA's doorstep. They were trained in the dark arts of spying, covert ops, the whole 9 yards. And when they came back, they didn't start in some giant, fancy headquarters. Nope. The GIS was born in a small, unassuming apartment.
And you know what? This brand new, tiny agency didn't have to wait very long for its first major test. See, Egypt and Britain were about to sign a historic treaty for British troops to finally leave the Suez Canal. For Israel, this was a disaster. That British presence was a buffer, and without it, Egypt was in full control.
So, Mossad activated a sleeper cell. The plan? Bomb American and British sites in Cairo, and then pin the blame on Egyptians to wreck the withdrawal deal. But here's the thing. The brand new GIS, working out of that tiny apartment, was watching. They tracked the cell, uncovered the whole plot, and arrested every last one of them. The failure was so catastrophic in Israel, it caused a political earthquake, forcing their defense minister, Pinhas Lavan, to resign. It became infamous as the Lavan Affair. The eagle had its first kill.
So in 1957, a new, incredibly ambitious director named Salah Nasser takes over. And this guy, he's going to transform the GIS from a small agency into a massive global intelligence empire. But this so-called golden age, well, it was about to cast a very, very long and dark shadow.
This era really had two faces. On the one hand, Nasser built this incredible global operation. He used front companies to fund missions and support anti-colonial movements all across Africa. This is when they planted legendary spies deep inside Israel. But on the other hand, he created an internal control department that turned the agency's powerful tools inward, spying on Egyptian citizens, using blackmail. The focus shifted from enemies abroad to dissent at home.
And all this hubris, this obsession with spying on its own people, it led directly to the single greatest intelligence failure in Egyptian history, the 1967 Six-Day War. While the agency was busy looking inward, it completely missed the flashing red lights and warnings from its agents about the impending Israeli attack. The result was a stunning, devastating defeat.
The fallout from that was just brutal. In the wake of the defeat, Nasser ordered a complete and total purge of the agency. And in this incredible turn of events, the GIS basically cleansed itself, arresting its own powerful director, Salah Nasser. He was put on trial and jailed for corruption and abuse of power. It was a painful but absolutely necessary reset.
From the ashes of that humiliation, the GIS was reborn. And now it had a single, all-consuming mission: avenge the 1967 defeat and reclaim Egypt's honor, no matter what it took.
The agency didn't just sit around licking its wounds. No, it immediately went on the offensive. During what was called the War of Attrition, it pulled off some incredibly daring special ops, like sinking an Israeli oil rig clear off the coast of West Africa. But that was just a taste of what was to come. Its true masterpiece was a years-long plan of strategic deception on a scale that is just unbelievable.
Their most powerful weapon wasn't a tank or a plane. It was a lie. For 3 solid years, the GIS ran this brilliant misinformation campaign. They intentionally leaked carefully crafted intelligence to Israeli and Western agencies that painted this picture of Egypt as a total basket case. Militarily crippled, economically broken, basically no threat to anyone.
And the plan's success was absolute. The deception was so total that Israel's entire leadership, everyone from Golda Meir to Moshe Dan, completely bought it. They were in a state of, quote, complete military relaxation when, on October 6, 1973, Egyptian forces stormed across the Suez Canal. It was one of the biggest intelligence surprises of the 20th century. Redemption was complete.
All right, so after the 73 war and the peace treaty with Israel, the very nature of conflict started to shift. The battlefield wasn't just about deserts and borders anymore. Now it was about economies, about currencies, and especially about energy pipelines.
And that question became front and center when massive natural gas fields were discovered deep under the eastern Mediterranean. All of a sudden, the GIS found itself fighting a new, much quieter war for Egypt's entire economic future.
An unlikely alliance sort of quietly formed with one single goal: to cut Egypt out of this new energy game. You had Turkey, which wanted to control the sea lanes. You had Qatar, a gas giant itself, which wanted to eliminate a huge potential competitor for the European market. And even Israel, at first, was hoping to become the region's one and only energy hub. But the GIS played a brilliant game of economic and diplomatic chess. They exposed and dismantled Qatari networks that were trying to fund chaos inside Egypt. Then they forged a whole new alliance, the East Med Gas Forum, with Greece and Cyprus, which totally isolated Turkey. And finally, they drew a hard red line in Libya that stopped Turkish military expansion in its tracks. The result? The anti-Egypt alliance just crumbled, and Egypt secured its spot as a critical energy hub for the whole region. Checkmate. Now, in the decades since, the agency has been right at the center of some of Egypt's most turbulent times, from fighting internal extremism to navigating the absolute chaos of a revolution. And to meet all these modern threats, the GIS had to evolve yet again. It created its very own independent Special Operations Force, a highly trained striking arm that could carry out surgical operations beyond Egypt's borders without leaving a trace. It gave them the power to not just inform, but to act.
You can see how the agency's focus has had to constantly shift. In the 80s, the shock of President Sadat's assassination forced a crackdown on extremism. By the 2000s, under the famous Omar Suleiman, it became a key diplomatic tool. And before the 2011 revolution, the GIS actually warned the government that a storm was coming, but tragically, the political leadership just failed to act on the intelligence. It was a failure that would completely reshape the nation. But behind all these grand strategies, these geopolitical chess moves, there's an immense unseen human cost. Just think about it. Imagine an officer who gets home after midnight. He spent his day hunting a spy through back alleys, but he can't explain to his family why his desk job kept him away for 48 hours straight. He can't explain a single thing.
They lived this life of silent sacrifice, unable to share any of their burdens or their victories. For the men and women of the GIS, these silent guardians in a world of shadows, this remains the central and maybe unanswerable question. What is the ultimate price they have to pay for their nation's security?